Good morning guys, welcome back to my allotment channel. My name is Emma, these are my allotment diaries, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you all the seeds I'm going to be sowing for my allotment garden in the month of February. If you're new to my channel and this sounds like it's going to be interesting to you, please hit the subscribe button. I'd love to have you as a follower. You can follow all of my allotment journey, my gardening journey. You can see how all the seeds do over the year as well, and I'd just love to have you, so do hit the subscribe button if you're new. Now this is not going to be an exclusive list of seeds that you can sow in the month of February, because there are tons of seeds that you can sow. It all depends on what you want to grow, what you want to eat. These are just going to be the seeds that I'm going to sow for my allotment garden in the month of February, and I hope it just gives you some inspiration, some ideas of what you can sow and what I'm doing. If you are trying to stay super organised in the year 2025 with all of your seed sowing and all of your allotment gardening, it might be a good idea to grab my allotment planner for 2025, which is available to purchase on Amazon. There are lots of pages in here where you can fill out the seeds that you're going to sow for 2025 and just keep it super organised. I have pages where you can jot down seeds you already have, seeds that you need to buy. There's a grid where you can fill in the seeds that you're going to sow each month. You can fill in the seed that you've sown, the date that you've sown it, and then when you expect to harvest it. So it's a really great way of staying on top of all of your seed sowing, staying really organised this year. So if you haven't purchased an allotment planner, the link is below in my description. They are available on Amazon to buy, and they're just a great way of keeping on top of all of your seed sowing this year. So there's not tons of seeds that you can sow directly in the month of February. Directly just means that you put it straight outside into the soil, and that's because it's too cold outside. A lot of the time you might find that there's been a lot of rain and everything's flooded, or it might be frosted over, so it's just not a great time to sow directly. Also, we don't have that much sun in the UK at this time of year, and so a lot of the seedlings kind of struggle to get going. So there's not tons and tons that I would sow directly outside, but there are a few, and I always like to push the boundaries when it comes to sowing directly, because it's a great space saver, isn't it? You can just whack it straight outside, it grows, you harvest it. You don't have to transplant seedlings around. I love it. I love direct sowing. So the things I'm going to try. I have a couple of salad crops here. I've got my radishes. These are the French breakfast radishes, which are kind of like long and really bright red with a little white tip. They're absolutely fantastic. Radishes love the colder weather, and they should actually be started early spring or kind of early autumn time when the soil's starting to cool down a bit. They do love the cooler weather. So radishes are a great thing to whack in now directly, as well as spring onions. Oh, upside down. Spring onions. I went with this variety, which is the common rogue. You can see it's got bit of a snazzy colour on it, which I thought would be really fun. Spring onions as well, at this time of year, they just do amazingly. Whack them in the ground, they'll all come up, no problem, honestly. Easy crop to grow. I'm also going to start some more broad beans. Now, I did overwinter my broad beans, which means that I sowed them directly in the autumn time, and I've left them all winter long. It is still technically the winter, isn't it? So they're doing really well and they're growing great, and I should get a really early crop out of them. But I am going to sow some more because I want a continuous harvest throughout the year, and I do love broad beans. They grow amazingly well at my allotment plot. That's the thing as well, if something grows really well at your allotment and you do love it, keep growing it, keep sowing it, you know, what's the harm? These are the I think it's called Agua Dulce, don't know. They will give you an early crop, and they really like the colder weather as well, so they're very hardy broad beans, and you can sow them directly as long as your soil's not frozen over, of course. So I'm going to whack some of these in. Controversially, I'm going to start my parsnips. Now, I won't start my parsnips till the end of February, but I swear by starting your parsnips in February when it's a little bit colder, they love the cold start, and they will grow throughout the year, and then you can harvest them next Christmas. So this Christmas coming, to Christmas 2025, I will be harvesting these parsnips. These are the Gladiator F1 variety, my favourite variety to grow. They do so well. I'm just going to whack them out in rows. I might cover them with a bit of fleece, and that's just going to be to stop the top of the soil from completely frosting over, and it just helps keep the moisture in with them as well, because they are very tiny seeds and they do dry out quite quickly. But I honestly, start your parsnips in February and thank me later. They do so well. You just have to try these things and see. You never know. Until you whack it in the ground, you never know if it's going to work or not. Something else I'm going to start in February, just because they need a very long growing time, is my tomatoes. Now I have gone with 4 different varieties this year that I've never grown before. Actually, one of them I've grown before, but the other 3 I haven't. So this one is the Tigerella. Look how beautiful that is. There are so many different varieties of tomatoes that it's silly to grow the same one twice. So I'm going for this one. It looks really, really cool. I've grown these before, but I love them. These are the Romas. As you can see, they're a little bit of a different shape. Very tasty, very lovely. I'm going for black cherry, which are basically like the standard cherries, but a little bit darker. So I'm really interested in those ones. These are going to be fun, I think. And I'm going for orange queen, just because I love the variety of having the different coloured tomatoes. I think it's really fun. Now I've got a greenhouse this year, and all of my tomatoes are going to be planted into the greenhouse as soon as they get going, because I just don't trust this changing temperature of the UK at the moment, and they really do need that consistent kind of heat to give you good tomatoes. I will also be growing 2 of my favourite tomatoes, which are Gardener's Delight, which is the best tomato variety for beginners. So if you have never grown tomatoes before, Gardener's Delight is your friend, and also cherry tomatoes. But I'm going to buy both of those varieties as plug plants because firstly, it's a lot easier. Secondly, they don't cost that much money. You can pick them up from most garden centres for a couple of quid, and also they just do really well. It saves me space on sowing seeds, and why not, basically. But Gardener's Delight is probably the #1 variety of tomato that I would tell every beginner allotmenter to grow, because it does amazingly every time, and it's really delicious as well. I am going to be starting some peas in February. These are Kelvedon. They're an early pea variety. Peas are kind of like potatoes in that they come in early varieties and then kind of more of a main crop variety which you grow later in the year. So if you are picking up any pea seeds, make sure they are an early variety for this time of year. Peas do really well at my allotment. Last year they did incredibly. Probably my best crop of 2024 was peas. So I'm going to sow these into modules. You probably could get away with sowing them at the end of February directly into the ground, but I have mice at my allotment plot and they love to dig them up and eat them. So I'm going to sow them into modules, and when they've grown, I'll plant them out as plants. But you just, if you don't have a mouse problem, stick them in the ground end of Feb. I reckon they would do really well. I have some flowers that I'm going to sow, and I'm only sowing 2 different varieties of flowers in the month of February. The rest I'm going to do later on in the year. First one, I'm going to do some sweet peas. This is the Beeline variety, and it's a really lovely high scented variety of sweet pea. Sweet peas, great flower to grow, really fun. You can put them over like a teepee or up some trellis or something. You pick them and they grow more, so the more you pick, the more that grow. They are beautiful, they smell gorgeous. Not all of them smell. So if you do want that beautiful sweet pea scent, look on the packet and make sure that it says it is a scented variety, because not all of them smell. Some of them have got longer stems, which are really good for picking. Some of them have got shorter stems. So make sure that you just read the packet and make sure that it's like doing what you want it to do, basically, because there's so many different varieties. I'm going with the Beeline. They're my all-time favourite. Look at the colours. Just beautiful, gorgeous, lovely flowers. And the other one I'm starting in February are my Cosmos. So I've got this dwarf variety here, Dwarf Sensation, which always does really well for me. And I've also got Pink Mosaic. How pretty are these? The 2 different colour tones to them, absolutely gorgeous. The bees love these. Pollinators love Cosmos flowers. They're a great flower to grow at your allotment plot because they will encourage all of the pollinators, butterflies and bees and wasps and all sorts of different animals. And again, they are the more you pick, the more you get kind of flower. So if you keep deadheading them, or if you pick them and bring them home as a little bunch of flowers, they will grow more. So the more you pick, the more you will get. Just a lovely flower for the allotment plot. Almost every allotment plot I ever walk past has got some kind of Cosmos growing, some kind of variety growing, and they are just lovely. I really like the ones that are like multi-petaled, so they aren't like your bog standard Cosmos. They've kind of got extra petals and they are just lovely as well. And finally, I'm going to start my cucumber seeds. I grew 1 cucumber last year for the first time ever, but I did buy the plants as plug plants. This year, I'm going to start my cucumbers super early, indoors, look after them for as long as possible, and hopefully get a few more cucumbers. More than one would be nice, to be honest. This is the Beth Alpha F1 variety. And if you're wondering where I got all these seeds from, mainly Amazon, also garden centres. I used to get all my seeds from Wilko's, but then it closed down. I'm still so sad that Wilko's is no longer there. So now I have to go onto Amazon. My favourite seed sellers are Mr. Fothergill's, Never Let Me Down. Really, really great varieties that you can get, and also the seeds are really great. Verve is the B&Q range, so I usually go into B&Q and they've got loads of seeds on sale there, so I usually get their one. They do really well as well, their seeds are great. Never really had a problem with B&Q seeds, and also reasonably priced again. I've got some Suttons. These are Sutton seeds. I've used these for a couple of years and they're still going strong, they still germinate really well. And these ones that are in this silver packet, these are Premier Seeds Direct, and these are the ones that I get from Amazon. Whenever I order seeds on Amazon, I make sure they're from Premier Seeds Direct, and I just find that they're really good. Right, so I'm going to start some of these seeds today. Brought these little seed starting trays on Amazon again. Most of what I get for the garden now is from Amazon, just because all the shops around me are closing. All the high street shops are closing and the garden centre is so expensive, so Amazon it has to be, I'm afraid. These are really good, I really like these. I'm a big believer of sowing even smaller seeds now into individual pots. You can scatter them on a seed tray, but I find it so much easier. If they're in a little container, you can kind of tip them out into your hand, a bit easier for pricking out. So, we're going to start with our tomatoes. Right, so I'm just using a seed and potting compost. And the only reason I'm using this is because it's a bit finer for seeds to go into, and I find it's just a little bit easier. But I didn't used to use this, guys. I used to just use multi-purpose compost and it still works absolutely fine. But if you can get your hands on some seed compost, it is probably a little bit better for seeds to start in. So we'll start with our Orange Queen. These look really fun. You must be careful not to sow too many. Difficult thing when it comes to seed sowing. Right, tomato seeds are very, very small. Now you can soak them. You can put them in a wet kitchen towel and fold them over until they start to sprout. A lot of people do that. I don't bother. I just sow them straight away because I'm a rebel. Right, I've sown way too many there. That's way too many. Way too many. How many tomato plants do we need? Definitely sow more than one. Probably more than two, and we'll prick out the best ones, but that's probably too many. Hey ho, there we go, that's what we've done. Orange Queen, there we go. So I'll do 4 Orange Queen, and then we'll do 4 black cherries. I'm excited about these ones, these look really exciting. And we'll end with the Tigerella. This again looks very exciting. I do love growing new varieties of things. Tomatoes are a great thing to experiment with because I love tomatoes. I've never found a tomato that I don't like the taste of, which is always a good thing. Right, I'm just scattering maybe 3 or 4. And then all we'll do is we'll cover them over a little bit more seed compost. There we go. I'm going to pat them down as I cover them, and that's to make sure that they've got really good contact with the soil. They need good contact with the soil in order to germinate, so it's a good idea just to give them a little pat down. Not only does the soil keep them in place and stop them from moving around, but it does also help them to germinate. They need the contact. Right, that's those ones sorted. Now with sweet peas, they have a very long root, so they like something like a root trainer, or if you don't have any root trainers, try some toilet rolls. I've just stuffed these into a pot like that, and then all you have to do is put in your compost, just push our seeds into them, like this. Probably do 2 or 3. Actually, come to think of it, you could probably do 4. Do as many as you want. Just push them in like that. Cover with a bit more compost, and then what you can do is when they're ready to plant out, you can just pull out one of the toilet rolls and plant the whole thing. The toilet roll will just disintegrate in the ground, the roots will get through it fine, and you won't disturb them as much, and they'll be quite happy. It's just a really easy way of sowing sweet peas. There you go. I'm sowing quite a lot of cosmos into these, and the idea will be that when they start to grow, I'll pick out the weaker seedlings and leave the stronger ones growing in here, and that way I don't have to do all that picking out and then potting on again, which I really don't enjoy doing, to be honest with you. I think it would just make my life a little bit easier to do it that way, and if the seeds aren't doing very well, I don't want them anyway, so that's the plan this year, to make life a bit easier. Always good to make life a bit easier if you can. It's hard enough as it is. Just thought I would show you quickly while we're here. This is my little salad mix that I sowed absolutely ages ago. I think it was just before Christmas I sowed this. Do you remember? I think it's got a mixture of like rocket, mizuna and different mustard seeds in here, different mustard leaves, whatever they are. It's so nice to have something growing. I've got this little shelf now that I got from Amazon. I think it was about £30, and now I can put all my seedlings up against the window, because my house, as you can see, my Victorian terrace is very, very dark. So I can have all of my seedlings right by the window, which I love. And this is just until I get my greenhouse up at the allotment plot. As soon as the greenhouse goes up, it's a game changer, guys. And all of my seedlings will go into that. But for now, this is doing the job. Also guys, just another super quick tip. So if you've got seedlings like cosmos, or if you're trying to do chilies or peppers, which are another great thing to sow at this time of year, by the way, that I'm not doing because I don't like them. If they need like a consistent sort of warmer temperature to germinate, get a clear bag and just put it around your seedlings. You can also use cling film, so if you've got cling film as well, just tuck it under, and what that will do is keep them really nice and warm, but also keep the moisture in so they won't dry out. And then hopefully as soon as you start to see germination, you'll be able to take it off. This is just what I do with all my seedlings that need a little bit more of a consistent heat to grow. Just a great little hack there. There you go. So those are the seeds that I'm going to be sowing in the month of February. I hope you found this video interesting, inspiring. Maybe it's just inspired you to try some new different varieties of seeds this year. I'll be sowing a lot more of my seeds in March and April, and most of what I plant on my allotment plot is direct. If I can plant it direct, I will sow it direct, just because it saves so much trouble, so much space. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see you again in my next one. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye.